We are delighted to welcome you to the last session of our Creation Care Conference. And sometimes people say you leave the best things until the last. There's a wonderful group in the room now, and we are ready for their presentations. We will start with Dr. Alejandro Flores, and I will get his PowerPoint on the screen.
And okay, Sister Martha, you've been doing a lot lately, and it's wonderful to join you again today after the session we had in the morning. So welcome everybody, greetings from the UIW campus in San Antonio. And we're about to start a presentation of Laudato Si on our human-dominated ecosystems course. And I have with me my students who will be really running the presentation. I'm just introducing the course and the basic ideas, and then we'll give them a chance to talk about their own forays into Laudato Si and the projects they chose to work. So let's get started. Please. The name of the course is Human-Dominated Ecosystems, and it's a new offering at our school. It's part of a math, science, and engineering school, but it's open to anybody, and it's part of the honors program at campus. We have a lecture and lab format like most of our science courses. However, of course, the labs are a little different for these program. And I would like to talk to you especially about a semester-long project that we're engaging with, which just started. But we also have case studies. We combine, and what I have here on this slide on the right is just a few examples of the topics that we are covering in our second module. That's where we are out of 4 modules. And it's been a wonderful, fascinating opportunity for me and for my students as well, because we have a small group, so like almost seminar-like atmosphere. And we get to expand the horizon of time and scope. We look at the whole globe, and we look at the history of our species. And it's very rare that we get to ask the big questions and go back in time. A little challenging as well, because we move, for instance, Roman beginnings that goes to the origins of nomadic life for us, and we explore how things, the modes of living have been shifting. Like, for instance, when we stay put, we anchored in place, and then we're now moving from disease in the world, like conquest and colonizations and maritime empires, to we're moving at the power at scale, which is the industrial age. And all these we're examining, we've been helped by a textbook to realize how humans have interacted with the environment historically. And we've been probably impressed, everybody, of how much we've been transforming the world, our land, our oceans, and throughout the years. And this is eye-opening, I should confess. It's also sometimes very pessimistic, and when you realize how much we have changed, but we try to keep the optimism. Of course, we bring Laudato Si, and the idea is that it can be inspiring and informative. Yes?
I can see you standing at the podium, and we see the slideshow. So you're going to be beautiful when we record you.
Perfect. So I was just wrapping up. This is just to give you an idea what kind of course we have. And one of the wonderful things, like I mentioned, we get to explore big questions about humans impacting and managing the Earth's biophysical systems. So we also running through some case studies that the students present. There are some examples over there, different ecosystems, so like quote-unquote natural systems that we're focusing at this point. We will later study more like human-created systems, like cities and stuff. Remaining with the ecosystem analysis modern ecology approach, but trying to open up our vision on our hearts into different sources of inspiration and information, and that's how Laudato Si is being integrated. Can we move to the next slide? But this is really about, well, I'll get to the projects and the students, but just a few more words about this opportunity. We get to ask big questions. So how do we reconcile the transformations that we've done in the environment? Even when we started manipulating fire, we got a lot of power. See, manipulating food chains and vegetation and many things. We even asked, what is it to be human in the first place? We got big brains and amazing hands. But what else? And also, are we created to create? This powerful endowment that we have about insights and manipulating, what is it about? And how we get to understand our surroundings and what we're doing to our environment and to ourselves. So moving to the project, can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so the lectures, we get to, of course, read Laudato and talk about these things, but we're asking the students to do a project where we specifically focus on the UIW campus here in San Antonio. So basically it's Laudato Si in a human-dominated ecosystem, the perspective from the campus, and the goal is for the students to explore the cyclical and how can it influence practical approaches to campus sustainability. So after these big bird eye view, big questions, sometimes even philosophical, we're coming down to earth and bringing to the present. And we are focusing on our very home here on the campus, and each student is choosing a particular aspect of campus sustainability, what they prefer, and they're asking how, again, Laudato Si can be inspiring and informative to their projects. Next slide, please. And just to remind you, we're just starting the semester, or basically 5 weeks into the semester. And we have our 5 stages here of our projects. We are in stage number 2. So basically students have selected their topics. I made them think about the objective of the project, their scope, and they will share that with us. But bear in mind that we're barely reading the document itself. So we're learning as we go, and we incorporate the ideas of Laudato Si throughout the semester. So at the end, we'll have a full presentation and a full chance to read the document itself. So we are very serious about it. We are doing a thoughtful and comprehensive reading of the encyclical, the full document, paragraph by paragraph, the full 246 paragraphs that there are.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And a lot to think about, reflect, and again, be inspired with, and maybe try to link ideas with the science, the traditional science that we've been teaching, and even the prayers, sister. There's 2 prayers at the end. We'll end up reading those. So, of course, when you hear my students, they're just barely starting with their projects. So this is what they expect, what they see, how Laudato Si, they expect this Laudato Si to mesh with their projects. I think I have a final one. Oh yes, this is just the order of presentations. They will give 5 minutes each, and that's the order. And we have some diverse topics that they chose. And with that, I end my part, and I will call Juliana to start with her presentation. Thank you, Juliana.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Juliana Symons, and today I'll be introducing my semester campus sustainability project for Dr. Flores' Human-Dominated Ecosystems class. My project will focus specifically on improving campus water conservation, specifically through native landscaping and rewilding. So before I get into the details of my project, I want to start by talking about Laudato Si and its correlation with water conservation and preservation. As I'm sure most of you already know, Laudato Si is the second encyclical published by Pope Francis in 2015, which addresses the care of our common home. The encyclical is grounded in the belief that God entrusted Earth to humanity as stewards and calls us for unified action to protect creation, emphasizing that environmental care is not only a scientific or political issue, but also a deeply religious one. The encyclical urges all people to respect the environment as an expression of love for God and neighbor, linking care for the environment to care for the poor and vulnerable, who are oftentimes disproportionately impacted by environmental degradation. So one of the key messages is the need to address unsustainable water consumption, particularly in developed regions where natural resources are being depleted at increasing rates. The encyclical also highlights water as a fundamental human right, emphasizing that everyone deserves access to clean, safe, and affordable drinking water. And as we know, human activities such as industrialization and agriculture can often introduce pollutants into our water sources, which directly infringes on this basic right. So now moving on to campus water use, specifically in relation to our irrigation practices. Our campus is beautifully historical, but this comes with its challenges. Irrigation systems use large volumes of water, which is a concern in regions like South Central Texas, where we are prone to drought. I think we have actually been in stage 2 drought restrictions since April 2022, I want to say. And residential irrigation systems use approximately 2,000 gallons of water per run, which is the amount one person uses per month. And while UIW isn't residential property, the size of our campus means that we're probably using even more water than a single household would use. Improper irrigation management practices can also exacerbate this issue. So long run times can oversaturate soil, leading to runoff. Improper sprinkler head positioning can also water impervious cover, like asphalt and concrete, which also leads to runoff. And lastly, excessive irrigation system pressure can lead to drifting. So basically, wind will carry off water droplets into the air and prevent it from reaching its target in the first place. And though we use recycled water here on campus, it's important to remember that this process still consumes energy and resources. Okay, so moving on to landscaping, which not only affects water quantity, but also water quality. Non-native plants often require more water since they aren't naturally supported in the local environment. And they're not used to our precipitation patterns here in San Antonio, or lack thereof. So the image up there is actually of some non-native plants observed on campus. Ligustrum and cat's claw vines are pretty common around here, and I think the Headwater Sanctuary is actually trying to remove a lot of the ligustrum since it is so overbearing. But non-native plants can also increase reliance on fertilizers and pesticides, which have the potential to run into nearby bodies of water. And this is especially relevant here at UIW since we are located on the headwaters. So any pollutants that we introduce here on campus have the potential to enter the river and flow downstream through the rest of the river. Frequent landscaping practices can also, like mowing, can also cause soil erosion, which leads to sedimentation and can further degrade water quality. So how are we going to address these issues here on campus? Well, my project aims to improve both irrigation and landscaping practices. I'll accomplish this by addressing our current practices and making suggestions for specific improvements. So as of right now, some general improvements that we could consider are installing smart controllers, which adjust water usage based on weather conditions. So for example, if we have a lot of rain, we wouldn't want to water the next day. Also, we don't want to water at the peak of the day when it's super hot and we get a lot of evaporation. Another option is to increase drip irrigation, which we do already have here on campus, especially around in the landscaping around the buildings. But we do still have regular spray sprinkler systems, so we could also just consider increasing the amount of drip irrigation that we have. And then on the landscaping side, we can obviously increase the use of native plants so that we decrease our reliance on pesticides and fertilizers. We can also consider rewilding areas, especially areas that aren't heavily trafficked. So over like the Grotto area, there's that big field. We don't have any tables, pathways, or buildings. So that could be a good spot to consider doing some rewilding. And this would reduce the amount of mowing and stuff that we have to do, which would improve the soil quality and enhance biodiversity. So yeah, these changes not only save water, but also align with UIW's commitment to environmental stewardship as guided by the moral principles of Laudato Si. Thank you. Are there any questions, comments, concerns?
This is so practical. Excellent.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to implement some of these things. It's not like, if anything, some of these practices can save us money, cutting back on the amount of money that we spend on landscaping maintenance and water, of course. So yeah.
A teeny correction. Mm-hmm. The area by the grotto is under the authority of the sisters, not under the authority of the university. Okay. So you need to do this presentation for the UIW sisters. Okay. We'll go for it. We'll support you.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess I'll hand it off to the next person who's presenting.
Elisa.
Okay.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Elisa Moran. I'm also a student in Dr. Flores' class. And today for my presentation, I'll be talking about waste reduction and sustainability in print design. So before we dive into my presentation, I kind of wanted to give a little bit of background as to why I chose this as my topic. So for context, I'm a graphic design major, and one thing that we typically experiment with or that we delve in a lot is working with paper and printing. I actually did some numbers, and about 75% of students, like in my field of study at least, utilize the printing software and the labs that we have here to accomplish like our projects and any like assignments and like reports that we have pending. And I feel like it's also important to bring this to light too, because this not only applies like to design majors, but so many other students, I believe, here at UIW also utilize the printing software such as PaperCut in order to print out like lab reports, essays, and whatnot that they might have to turn in for their classes. And so I kind of wanted to delve into the sustainability aspect of how important printing is and why we should consider going into waste reduction. First, I wanted to begin with my project objective. So the objective of this project is to explore and implement sustainable practices for UIW students in print design and also outside of print design, with a focus on waste reduction and recycling. By analyzing the environmental impact of traditional print processes, this project aims to identify opportunities for minimizing material waste and promoting the use of eco-friendly inks and papers. And additionally, this project aims to expand on the concept of Laudato Si, which we have been covering briefly in our human-dominated ecosystems class, and how it serves to inspire and inform this particular subject matter. And so the ultimate goal of this project is to create a comprehensive strategy that supports environmentally responsible print practices while maintaining high design standards for the university and its students. And then my project scope. So the scope of this project encompasses a detailed analysis of the sustainability challenges in printing, with a focus, of course, on waste reduction and recycling. And so it includes an assessment of current print materials such as paper, ink, and binding methods to determine their environmental impact. So this project will explore alternative eco-friendly materials and design strategies that minimize waste throughout the production lifecycle. And additionally, it'll involve a review of recycling processes and how they can be integrated into the print design workflow. Okay, so first I want to begin with reducing toxicity with eco-friendly inks. So there is a very clear difference between the use of traditional inks versus eco-friendly inks. Obviously, one is a lot more sustainable than the other. So conventional or traditional inks often contain harmful materials such as VOX or volatile organic compounds and air pollutants such as benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, I hope I pronounced that right, and xylene. These compounds can be released into the air during the printing process, which can harm not just like workers like who are like in the offices for printing, but also like the students and contribute to air pollution. So some eco-friendly alternatives would be possibly going into soy-based inks. And the benefits of using soy-based inks is that they are renewable and that they are low in VOX. And there's also water-based inks, which are non-toxic and biodegradable. And personally, I've actually dabbled into that last one there, which are vegetable-based inks, which are derived from sustainable resources. These actually come from like a wide variety of like vegetables, like you wouldn't even think would be used for inks. Like a lot of it actually comes from like potatoes and like carrots and whatnot, which you're thinking like, wow, like how could that possibly translate over into like inks? Um, so it's a very interesting process, I think, on how like we can make it more sustainable. And so benefits, like I said before, are reduced air and water pollution, and it's just overall safer for students and the environment. Um, so yeah. Okay. And then going into reducing waste and packaging. So I think it is extremely important to be able to find the right sizing and efficient layouts when it comes to printing your work. So designing to the exact print dimensions reduces waste in the trimming process. So me speaking from personal experience, just recently we dabbled into my first project in my typography class. And we had to print out our final project on a tabloid size sheet. And so tabloid, in case y'all don't know, is an 11 by 17 sheet of paper. And that takes up a lot of like resources within our printers compared to like if you were to print a letter size sheet, which is 8.5 by 11. It is actually crazy, like the amount of like tiny like microchemicals that go into like each sheet of paper. Um, and I think it would just make such a huge difference, like if we were to optimize the number of prints per sheet that we use in order to like maximize paper usage and minimize any leftover scraps. This definitely contributes, I think, to when it comes to like recycling unused paper and just like leftover paper as a whole. It doesn't matter if it's like cardstock, if it's any type of paper. Minimal packaging, I believe, is also incredibly important. So for minimal packaging, I believe we should have a focus on using materials that are recyclable, compostable, or biodegradable for packaging. So some examples would include maybe like some recycled cardboard, biodegradable plastics, or even plant-based materials like cornstarch packaging. And so this kind of ties into the idea of like minimalist design, which is limiting the amount of unnecessary packaging elements, such as like excessive plastic wraps and just extra layers like of wrapping as a whole. Um, and then sustainable binding methods. So I personally think we should try avoiding non-recyclable adhesives or mixed material binding techniques. We should try to opt more for staples. Staples are honestly your best friend if you would like for them to be. And there's different types of like staples you can use. Like some come in like more thicker variations than others. So if you were to print like perhaps like a research paper, then you could definitely consider looking into like the thicker types of staples. There's also thread and recyclable glue that can be easily separated during the recycling process. And then some waste reduction techniques. I believe we could probably try to aim for more digital proofing and smaller print runs to prevent overproduction. And also, it would definitely save a lot more resources in the long run. And also encouraging reusability in design elements that can be detached and repurposed. So, for example, like modular packaging or folding methods. And then going back to Laudato Si, so how do I expect Laudato Si to inspire and inform my project? So Laudato Si inspires and informs my project by emphasizing the interconnectedness of all life, and the need for environmental stewardship, as Pope Francis, had put it in the encyclical. It encourages a systems thinking approach that respects nature, reduces waste, and promotes sustainability by using eco-friendly inks and materials and minimizing material waste. My project aligns with the encyclical's call for responsible resource use and care for the common good. And additionally, it highlights the importance of reducing consumerism and promoting education about the environmental impacts of traditional design practices. Yes.
Darlene is very bashful, but she, as a communication arts major, is impressed with your work.
All right, everybody. My name is Sarai Luciano, and I'm going to be talking about my clean energy project. So for my introduction, Laudacity encourages us to care for our common home, the earth, and urges us to take responsibility and action for our impact to the environment. There are many ways we are called to take responsibility, whether it's a shift in our lifestyle and consumerist habits, supporting political actions that care for our planet, and helping vulnerable communities. So one way we can do that here at UIW is to make that shift to renewable energies. Some renewable energies, as I'm sure you all know, include hydro, wind, geothermal, biomass, and the ocean. So the integration of renewable resources at UIW main campus as a step to a shift in lifestyle and sets a precedent for other universities to take responsibility of sustainably energizing its campus. Now, I know that seems like a really big step, making a campus 100% reliable on a renewable energy. You think about a lab that you stepped into and how many machines are connected, whether it's for a micro lab or for our lab. That's a big step, but I'm hoping that I can create a plan to take us in the right side. So the objective of my clean energy project is to create a plan that would allow UIW main campus to transition solely on clean energy by installing solar panels and or wind turbines. So I want to make that emphasis that I am trying to do it solely on solar panels. I'm trying to do it more on the academic buildings, so like AT&T Center or Bonilla Science Hall, or even the communications building. I'm not sure what the communications building is called, but I'm trying to do it more for the academic buildings on campus. And like again, on solar panels like above the buildings, that would help lessen the cost on UIW to pay for this energy. So my goals is to research the costs that we pay like monthly, the amount of solar panels that would be needed to sustainably energize the entire campus, and whether it's even feasible for the entire campus to rely solely on solar power. We might need we have that, the hill they call it up, we might need to put wind turbines up there if solar power isn't going to be enough. And to create a solar panel design and layout with an installation plan, an energy management system to help the UIW community get engaged. So at the end of the semester, I hope to have created a plan that UIW can utilize and reference if they do decide to make the switch to carbon neutrality by utilizing renewable energy like solar panels. So I hope to bring it up as like sort of like a proposal, because UIW has to listen to their students. But the ultimate plan of getting the UIW main campus to switch to renewable energy won't happen by December, but it'll hopefully be the catalyst to making that plan happen. That's all I have. Is there any questions?
Or on solar panels.
Why don't you tell them what you presented this morning?
Well, yes, the UIW campus has been awarded a grant to install solar panels at the library in the medical campus on the south side of the city. Probably aware that we have a campus that's a medical one. And it was a very competitive process, but we managed to get that grant and
$75,000 for solar panels.
And sister, you've been talking to other sisters about solar panels, right? Tell them about your idea with the Archer.
Okay, night before last, I was at a meeting with all kinds of sisters, and I said, how many have solar panels? And about 6 different groups of sisters have solar panels. And then another one wrote me, she said, well, not exactly the house I live in now, but our big house does. So we want to do something like Sisters for Solar. And I mean, we want to know about everybody, but we're going to say how many Catholics, how many Catholic churches, how many Catholic schools have solar panels. And this is what you do. This is how you are good in the modern age. The way you're good in the modern age is to go solar.
Well said.
And I want to use the phrase pro-life, that in Christianity we should preserve life, love life, take care of life. And sometimes you see a lot of publicity like, what does pro-life mean? Well, solar is pro-life.
Hi y'all, my name is Kaylee Howel, also in the class. So I'm going to be talking about a UIW Water Quality Enhancement Initiative, which is going to be kind of similar to Juliana's, but probably a little bit more basic than hers. So how does Laudato Si relate to my project and the UIW campus? So the UIW Water Quality Enhancement Initiative aims to improve the water availability on campus through comprehensive assessment, sustainable practices, and community engagement. This project is inspired by the principles outlined in Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si, which emphasizes care on our common home and the interconnectedness of environmental health and human well-being. I really just want to point out how important it is for all humans to be able to have safe, clean drinking water, not only just to conserve it for our planet, but also for everybody who lives here. So like I said, access to safe drinking water is a universal human right and needed for survival. This is why we need to understand how to make sure we maintain safe drinkable water for everyone, and this is how I'm going to relate to my project. So my objective is to assess, suggest, implementation of sustainable processes, and initiate campus community engagement by analyzing water sources on campus, like drinking water, runoff, and wastewater, and identify the areas of improvement, implementing rainwater harvesting, if we ever get it, as well as promoting eco-friendly cleaning and landscaping runoff. I will initiate community engagement by developing campaigns and encourage the use of reusable water bottles, eliminating single-use practices. I think that that's kind of a really easy beginner step for a lot of students who really aren't in the just environmental science or understanding of any sort of stuff like this. I think that's just like a really easy thing that we can get out there for all students and staff to kind of take baby steps and hopefully get everybody involved. So my project scope, the goals are to conduct a comprehensive water quality assessment, implement sustainable water management practices, educate and engage. I think the most important thing is to educate and engage and just get the community involved. Key activities for that will be water testing, installation of systems, and feedback mechanisms. Examples of water conservation that I think students and staff could easily achieve. Like I said, reusable water bottles, shorter showers. I deal with that in my own apartment, living with 5 other roommates. Every time someone, they're like, oh, I'm gonna take a shower, and they turn their shower on, and then they sit in the kitchen and talk, and I'm like, what are we doing here? Oh, we gotta fix that. So that's a big one. Fix leaks quickly and harvest rainwater, again, if we ever get any. Conclusion. This project scope outlines a clear and comprehensive framework for enhancing water quality on campus ensuring that it aligns with the principles of Laudato Si by focusing on assessment, sustainability, community engagement, and collaboration. We aim to create a healthier and more environmentally responsible campus for all. And that's it. Sorry, it takes me a while to get around.
What you're saying about water bottles. And what if we, in all situations around here, said we're all carrying our reusable water bottles, and for events and everything, we're like, no more throwaway water bottles.
Yeah,
we could do it.
I think we could.
Do it. And look how good you are. Look how many of them are here. These are the people putting things into practice. It's great. Everybody, at the end of this, could we get a picture all together? You know, I'm trying to take individual pictures, but I think it would be really strong to have a picture of everybody together.
How to actually make the presentation with? I've never worked with it.
Good.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cassandra Hankins, and I am an interior design student here at UIW. And this is my Laudato Si project for the Human-Dominated Ecosystems course. Okay, so as an interior design student, I've always been fascinated about buildings and the way that they are built and how their systems function and work together and how they keep a building running properly. Our entire world is just filled with buildings, and we are constantly constructing more and more of them every single year. There are currently 4.3 billion buildings in the world, which includes all residential and commercial use buildings. The United Nations predicts that the world population will reach about 9.7 billion by the year 2050, and so that means that the number of buildings will just be continuing to increase in order to help accommodate this predicted growth. It is estimated that by the year 2050, there will be an additional 1.6 billion new buildings built. So by that year, there will be about 5.9 billion buildings in the world. So buildings are a major contributor to greenhouse gases emissions, which account for a significant portion of global emissions. Buildings account for almost 40% of global energy related CO2 and are critical in tackling climate change. Buildings contribute over 30% of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions through electricity use. About 12.5% is contributed through fossil fuels, which are used for heating, cooking, cooling, and hot water. And about 4% is contributed through fluorinated gases, which are gases that are used in refrigeration and air conditioning systems. So the objective for my project is just trying to find ways that UIW can minimize their effect on climate change with reducing the amount of greenhouse gases that UIW emits from campus buildings. So as mentioned previously, buildings are a critical key component in tackling climate change. And so I just wanted to look at our very own campus and just see how much of an impact we truly have on our environment through these greenhouse gases. Okay, so the scope for my project will focus specifically on fossil fuel combustion and refrigeration and air conditioning. So as I stated previously, buildings burn fossil fuels for heating, cooking, and hot water, which releases large amounts of carbon dioxide into the air. Gases used in refrigeration and air conditioning systems also leak into the environment,
which have a high global warming potential. So some of my fellow classmates are already looking at like electricity consumption and energy consumption. So I just wanted to focus more on some of those other ways that buildings contribute to climate change, which, as I stated, will be through fossil fuels and through fluorinated gases. So the first scope that I looked at is just limiting the extent of my work. Even though UIW is a relatively smaller campus compared to other larger universities, we still have a lot of buildings, and so it would be really difficult if I were to like examine all of them. So I just decided to limit myself to 3 of those, and the ones that I have chosen are the Joyce Building, the SEC Building, and the Administration Building. The Joyce Building is our design and technology building, which is where I particularly spend the majority of my time here on campus. And so that's the reason why I chose it for my first building. And then the SEC, of course, there are so many students coming and going within the building every single day to use for eating, dining, and just for social gathering. And then lastly, the Administration Building was built in 1921, so it is one of our oldest buildings here on campus, which is why I decided to pick that one for the third focus. And then the second scope that I will be looking at is just limiting the duration of my time. The duration of my work on campus. So our project is limited in time, and we only have till about December, so I will be focusing on these 3 buildings for that time span of about 2.5 months. And then the last scope that I looked at is just figuring out how I will be gathering my information. And so I would just be talking to UIW employees that have access to, or that can just connect me to someone that can get me access to UIW's energy consumption rates, and then just observing the results and compiling the data that I've collected to present all of my findings. Okay, so finally, how does this all relate back to Laudato Si? Laudato Si is a significant and urgent appeal for global action on environmental issues, particularly climate change. And similarly, my project will also focus on climate change. Laudato Si explains that the ecological crisis is not just a scientific or political issue, but it is also a moral and spiritual one. And so, as a Catholic university, we should recognize our responsibility to protect the environment as a moral obligation rooted in faith. And even if you practice a different religion or don't practice a religion at all, Laudato Si invites all people, regardless of faith, to join in this effort, emphasizing that the ecological crisis is a shared responsibility that requires collective action. Laudato Si also advocates for education and formation in ecological responsibility. So through my project, I will be able to inform others about what I have found, and as well as to just educate individuals about our duty to protect and maintain the environment in a more sustainable way. And then lastly, Laudato Si challenges the global community to rethink its relationship with the environment. And so the results of my project can help us understand and acknowledge just how much our university is impacting our environment, and how we can go about from there to reevaluate our interconnection that we have with the natural world. And that is it. Thank you.
Cassandra, I'm really glad that you mentioned people of all faiths invited, because there is a group like Buddhist and sustainability, a lot Muslims and sustainability, more and more Jewish groups. And a year ago, we had a grant and we were working with Hindus on sustainability. So, it's not like, oh, this is a Catholic or this is a Christian thing. This is a human thing, and it's really important.
Hi, my name is Maria Barron. I am also a student of Dr. Flores for his Human Dominated Ecosystems class. And I am a psychology major, so not really fitting in for this thing. But I'm really going to be focusing on electricity consumption because this is a university and we do need light sometimes because some areas do get pretty dark in the campus. Our project objective and scope is trying to figure out how we can really reduce energy, like electricity specifically, because again, we're always leaving lights on, we're always using some sort of light source from our laptops or from anything really. And I just also want to propose methods that we could do to reduce these energy usage, because as a campus, this is probably one of the biggest we use besides our dorms, like heating and air. Um, for instance, the SEC always lights on. There's always something that is having some sort of electricity usage. And for this whole thing, I'm just going to look at and compare it between UT Austin. I know that is very 180. They're a pretty big school, and we are obviously a very smaller school. But I do also want to just see how we can like reduce it compared to UT because we want to try to find more affordable and more sustainable ways to reduce these energy costs. So UIW is not very open compared to UT about how much electricity we use and how our methods. I do know there's a solar house and I was researching about that a little bit, but again, we're not as open as UT. We don't have it pasted on our website like, look how much money we spent. But also, not a lot of schools are. They're not really open about it, and I feel like that's something we should kind of discuss more openly to be like, yeah, we are probably not the most sustainable, but we want to provide new ways to be sustainable. So that is still a work in progress. But has posted theirs on their page, and they have their whole page on their website dedicated to documenting their electricity and thermal consumption around the campus. The most recent year that they posted was for the 2021-2022 school year, and they listed it as a natural gas that they use, which was about 159 million kilowatts, which is pretty big because that's a lot of numbers, and that probably cost them over $10 million. Again, their campus is super big. They're over 400 acres plus other buildings. Well, their main campus is 431 acres, but the other buildings that they own totals up to 1,438.5 acres. So you can see that even with their natural gas usage, it's still a lot, and there still could be ways that we could reduce this. And I just found a couple from the University of Colorado Boulder, just reducing it in a little bit. And as Sarai mentioned that it is going to be a process, but these little steps could help. So there are some energy efficient light bulbs that we could use. So it might be less watts. It might be, not as draining as it is for the electricity. And so we don't have to constantly probably leave them on as well. And for the thermal aspect of it, we should obviously look at the weather before you leave. Don't turn on the heat. That's my thing. And just dress appropriately. Like if it's cold, bundle up. If it's hot, don't bundle up. Don't be mysterious. It's not worth it. And a third thing we could do is implement energy conserving appliances for the campus. We do have dorms and obviously bathrooms and stuff. So there are some things that I do want to look into specifically for these three. Specifically the energy conserving appliances, I want to understand how that works and will it actually be sustainable for the campus and will it actually work properly for the campus. And how I expect Laudato Si to really inspire and inform my project specifically. In one of the paragraphs for Laudato Si, the Pope really understands that the world that they are producing and harming, they're still giving it to us, the younger generation. And I feel like observing it from a college campus and see how they want to reduce energy is something that really is going to at least turn heads, be like, oh, we should actually pay attention and actually do something about it so we won't give our children a really polluted world. And also, electricity plays a big part of our life, you know, laptops, your phone, anything. We just also just, again, in general, just want to provide a very more eco-friendly thing for our kids, us, and maybe your nieces and nephews you don't like.
I really like that you said, how do we dress? And do you realize the thermostats are set for men that are in white shirts with suit coats on? And so the thermostats are for men, and we women have to carry around our ribosas so we don't get too cold. But think about that. And that's a really good point about why do we dress in all this stuff, then we have to put the air conditioning on freezing to be comfortable.
Sister, I just forgot, I want to mention on the case of Maria, we should talk a little bit afterwards about this transparency thing, about information. Maybe you can help us a little bit.
Yeah, I feel we had an engineering professor, Allison, and I'm forgetting her last name, and she was so concerned about that. And she discovered that almost every building is on a different meter. So we can trace how much electricity the campus uses, but it is so complex with every building on a different meter. Some progress that we have made is in the summertime when the city says it's gotten so hot that, you know, we're overusing electricity. Will your campus cut back and change all of the thermostats in all of your buildings so you're not using as much electricity? And we do participate in that city program, which is a good thing. But the transparency thing, if somebody wants to go around to every building, and we can do it.
So we don't have a total.
Well, I don't know. So let's ask. But the engineering professor, she was pursuing this, and we discovered you got to go to the meter for every building.
Somebody pays the bills, manages those, would know how much money we're spending in electricity.
Yeah. So, I mean, we can go to the chief financial officer and we can say, what is the total of all the buildings?
Maria has been struggling, and I don't know the people, as you know.
Yeah, I do. I know the chief financial officer.
So, thank you, Sister. Amanda.
Oh, hi, my name is Amanda Hidalgo, and for my project on sustainability on campus, my objective for my project is fossil fuel and car emission based, dealing with commuters going to campus and how it contributes to climate change, especially since our campus is the 7th largest city in the nation, or our city. And my goal, or the goal for UIW, is as the future is going green, our campus should try leading towards that direction as well. Being eco-friendly and innovative should be a priority when it comes to our beautiful Catholic university. There are many ways to help our campus be sustainable, and one of the ways is cutting down on our fossil fuel emissions. So I would say that UIW, one of the problems is that it's a commuter school, meaning people drive to get to campus with roughly 7,305 students. 11% live on campus, while 89% live off campus. The problem with that is fossil fuel emissions. Since students' cars rely on gasoline or diesel, this contributes to combustion of fossil fuels, releasing carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases, exacerbating climate change. In 2022, the U.S. produced about 11.9 million barrels per day of crude oil, which is refined into gasoline, diesel, and other products. Typically, a significant portion of this crude oil is converted into gasoline, around 45%, and diesel, about 20%. The air quality also suffers since UIW is in a city with a population of almost 2 million people. Traffic is highly prevalent. Because I know when I drive to school from my 9 a.m. classes, I live by SeaWorld, so I have to wake up extra early, drive, and sometimes there's accidents or there's objects on the highway or a car just stops. And when your car becomes idle, it still contributes to your emissions, the exhaust. And increased vehicle use contributes to traffic jams, which can lead to idling and more emissions per mile traveled. This further deteriorates air quality and increases overall fuel consumption. Car exhaust contains pollutants such as nitrogen oxides, volatile organic compounds, and particulate matter. These can lead to smog formation and respiratory issues affecting both students and surrounding communities. But I would say that we're a little bit more luckier. I know other countries have it worse, like Korea. Their smog is so bad that it produces acid rain. So they always have to wear, or they always have to carry umbrellas with them every time it rains. And some helpful solutions to this. I can go next one. So I know it may be a little bit more challenging to find solutions for this problem since it is a little bit more broad, but here are some ways to help minimize our carbon footprint. And I try to stay away from going electric because many people don't realize going electric is kind of just as bad in a way, because finding the material for the batteries, it's just as detrimental as fracking, as oil too. Because I know when it comes to drilling oil and converts to gasoline, you have to frack the environment, which is bad on our habitats, and it's also bad just in general because fracking also causes little miniature earthquakes as well. And so some helpful solutions is developing transit app development. We can create a dedicated app that provides real-time updates on public transit schedules, carpooling options, and biking routes, making it easier for students to choose sustainable transport. We can also do community engagement, which hosts workshops and events focused on sustainable transportation practices, encouraging students to share their community experiences and solutions. Another option is telecommuting options for staff, encourage faculty and staff to work remotely when possible, reducing overall traffic on campus and on the way to campus. And corporate partnerships, we can collaborate with local companies to offer discounted rideshare services for students commuting to and from campus. And last but not least is incentives for low emission vehicles. We can provide parking benefits or reduce fees for students and staff who drive low emission or electric vehicles, because I know the fee for parking, it renews, I think, I don't know how many semesters, but it's expensive. For the parking garage over there, it's expensive, and it goes to our student free. And I feel like it should be free because we already pay our tuition, but I'll go to the next slide. And how Laudato Si correlates to my project is, as we study Laudato Si, one of the quotes that inspired me and will help lead the change is by Patriarch Bartholomew. And he quotes, "For human beings to destroy the biological diversity of God's creation, for human beings to degrade the integrity of the earth by causing changes in its climate, by stripping the earth of its natural force or destroying its wetlands, for human beings to contaminate the earth's waters, its land, its air, and its life, these are sins. Or to commit a crime against the natural world is a sin against ourselves and a sin against God." With this being said, it sheds light on our impact and helps us recognize how big our footprint is, resulting in changing our ways for the better. Because as a person, I am very passionate about the environment, the earth. It's the only one we have, and I feel like people neglect and forget to appreciate what we have, because right now this is the best we got. So we do need change. Thank you.
What a powerful quote.
In our course, we've been analyzing these paragraphs, and one of the questions we've asked is how inspiring they are. And that paragraph was very inspiring. Most everybody found the paragraph very inspiring.
You can see like with the sun right now, but we can try.
I think we should just turn the screen off.
Just turn the screen off. Water.